Growing up, I would often be asked why my family and I were fasting during the holy month of Ramadan, and I would often robotically reply the same answer. It's to know what the poor people feel like. However, after having been on such a long journey of awakening, undoing, unconditioning, relearning, and almost losing religion and my faith to find it for myself, I've now truly begun to understand what a blessing the holy month of Ramadan is, and just how spiritually powerful and beneficial this time of the year is. For those that don't know, Ramadan is the 9th month in the Islamic holy calendar, and it's comprised of 29 to 30 days of abstaining from food and drink, as well as other bodily needs and desires for Muslims during daylight hours. That means sometimes our fasts can be extremely long in the summer days. No food, no drink, and the heat, it really can be a challenge. But in the absence of all those outwardly desires and needs, something truly amazing begins to happen. And I feel like this is often overlooked when explaining what Ramadan means to people that don't necessarily know a lot about it. Without those outwardly desires and needs, you suddenly have no excuse but to focus on the inner aspect of yourself. And I believe that as human beings, that is truly where our treasures lie. And it's not just Muslims that fast. Most of the world's major religions prescribe some type of fasting, whether that's a Christian person during Lent, a Hindu person once or twice a week, or a Jewish person on Yom Kippur. These fasts require the faster to give something up or to abstain from something in the name of their Lord, and ultimately to better themselves as human beings in order to grow closer to God and closer to themselves. So bearing all of this in mind, why do Muslims fast for a whole month non-stop out of the year? Well, I see it this way. Although most human desires are completely natural, sometimes we can fall prey to those desires. In excess, these desires can become harmful to us, our bodies, and our own spiritual growth and development, which is why the holy book, the Quran, advises against certain things. But many of us can sometimes fail to follow that advice or find it difficult to do so, especially when we're caught up in worldly things. However, in Ramadan, suddenly things that are actually lawful to us on a day-to-day basis, such as food, drink, and sex with our spouses, are made unlawful from sunrise to sunset. The effect of this is tremendous. We find ourselves willfully submitting to the act of abstaining from food, drink, and other things, because this is what is required of us during this holy month. We find ourselves saying no to normal things which are otherwise allowed, showing us a human capacity within ourselves to abstain from whatever we want, whenever we want. This just goes to show that we can say no to those things that the Quran advises are harmful on a normal day outside of the holy month. It's all about training the mind, the body, and the spirit, and Ramadan gives us the perfect time to do that. In modern day or YouTube talk, we would say that this is the ultimate habit builder. This is the ultimate productivity hack. Honestly, Ramadan gives you all of that and more. Ramadan is pretty much a prescription from a doctor for us to heal, the doctor being the Lord Almighty himself. The whole month is a healing process within itself, a way of building and cultivating self-fortitude, courage, and self-belief. It's an arduous journey that first begins with the body and the external facets, but which then goes on to penetrate the inner facets of the soul, the spirit, and the heart. By removing all those usual physical wants and needs, It allows the time and space to focus on the inner self. After all, we're not our bodies or our clothes or the food that we eat. We're infinite souls with such massive potential to reach a level of consciousness in our everyday lives to bring us closer to God. And personally, Ramadan is a huge reminder of this. Through fasting, we learn to understand our carnal selves, and by taming our physical appetites, desires and greed, we begin to pave a path which elevates us from our physical being up to the spiritual dimension of our being. And that is so beautiful. Ramadan, if done and appreciated fully, teaches patience, perseverance, gratitude and humility. It allows a fresh start to those who may have found themselves falling, and a new perspective to those who already thought they were on their way. It's a time of reflection, of soul nurturing and of personal spiritual growth and development, and that's in addition to the amazing detoxing, healing and nurturing process the physical body undergoes as well. And at this time of the year, there are millions and millions of people all around the world at the crescendo of this hugely spiritual journey celebrating Eid. The two go perfectly hand in hand. You cannot have Eid without Ramadan, and nor can you have Ramadan without Eid, and sometimes we can forget that. Eid is a joyous occasion and we should celebrate that, yet at the same time, the ending of Ramadan also, for me anyway, it does bring sorrow. It's like saying goodbye to an old friend, not knowing if you will ever see them again. But you know what they say about one door closing, right? The end of Ramadan, which begins with the new moon, signals the start of a brand new beginning, and that in itself is something worth celebrating. The gift of Ramadan, because that is exactly what it is, such a beautiful, profound gift, stuns me to silence through its generosity and its beauty and its perfect example of how we should try and live our lives every single day. So, all of this and even more is why I fast, and for me it is a complete honour and a privilege to do so. I pray for the whole of humanity that we can build good habits that bring us closer to ourselves, closer to God and closer to the rest of humanity. I pray that the lessons that many Muslims learn throughout Ramadan is something that we can keep in our hearts and our lives every single day, and not just for those 30 days out of the year. I appreciate you listening and hearing this message today, and if you have any questions about Ramadan, feel free to comment down below. Sending so much peace, light and love to everyone. And remember what Rumi said, the lamps are different, but the light is the same.